We're back on track. We're getting ready. It's trivia tonight. I'm ready to test these guys. Everybody for trivia. Plus, Ben says we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. So, Ben, I got some Packer news right off the top. We're going to stay on key. I know people like it when I stay on target and we don't dawdle. So here we go. Packer news. There's lots of it. Kenny Clark, his big fat contract. Way to go, Kenny Clark. Highest paid D tackle in the world. Nice work. Is he worth it?
I don't know about. He's not quite highest paid in the world.
I don't know if he's worth it. He's not better than Aaron Donald.
We need to get into that. That's one of the topics we got to talk about, like extensively.
Yes, we do. Hold on. The same day the Packers signed Kenny Clark to this big fat extension, they crushed my dreams. My prediction of the guy I said who was going to take over for Kevin King mid-season as a starting cornerback, and they cut him. Marc-Antoine Dequoy was cut that same day. Moment of silence.
Yep.
Also, wide receiver Darrell Stewart. We don't know why he was on there. And James Looney, who they changed from a D line to a tight end this year. He was going to make.
He was my secret weapon. He was the guy I thought he was going to be with COVID-19. He was going to be back up to everything, right? He's going to play D line. He's going to play offensive line. He's going to be back up tight end, back up fullback, back up middle linebacker, back up defensive outside linebacker.
He was.
I mean, and now they let him go. He could have been the secret weapon. Gone.
That's very sad. Very, very sad. Very sad. James Looney, sorry, buddy, you're out. But they also claimed on August 15th, a couple of Packer transactions. They claimed Travis Fulgham, and then 4 days later, they cut Travis Fulgham, a wide receiver, as well. They also cut Travis Bruffy, who we talked about briefly as well. So he's not going to be on the team either.
Yeah, apparently somebody said.
Tell me, why do they keep signing wide receivers and they're cutting wide receivers, Ben? What are they trying to do here? I don't get it. Nick, maybe
they're trying to make people, because everybody's saying that they have the receivers except for me, and then they are trying to sign more guys so that people be like, oh, see, they signed a guy, and then they cut him just to make everybody mad again. That's their secret weapon, just to make everyone pissed, and it's working. Look at Nick; he doesn't look happy.
I mean, they sign a number 8 wide receiver and they cut a number 9 wide receiver. Who cares?
But why do they keep doing it? Why do they keep signing more wide receivers and cut wide receivers? Like, I don't get it.
What's the assistant general manager's job? He has to do stuff sometimes. It's just busy work.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. To keep somebody occupied. Fine. All right. That's some of the news. I got other news. I got other news here. Ready? Lots of drops so far in Packers camp. Lots of drops. It was commented by the media. And you know I hate drops. What do I hate more than anything in football, Ben? Drop passes.
Corey Linsley, you really hate him.
I would rather see a drop pass is worse than an Ole block. It's the worst. The worst. Quit dropping passes. All right. Also, Packers practice in Lambeau Field for the first time this week. That's very exciting. And Tyler Ervin has been lining up at wide receiver. Tyler Ervin, the running back at 192. And I have some interesting things about Tyler Ervin. Did you realize, Ben, that he had a 4.41 40-yard time at the combine? It's pretty impressive. He's now the second fastest receiver, if he's a receiver, behind MVS.
Yeah. Maybe that's the thing. Everybody's complaining. Why didn't sign a receiver? Inside a receiver. They got a guy who's a switch army knife, whatever. He put him wherever they want. And they could do Aaron Jones too. So either one of those two guys could come in and play the slot and do the shifty in space, make a guy miss and do something awesome. And they're probably better than any rookie you could find. So once again, my point is proven that we don't need anybody else. It's a best team. This team is good the way it is. The only thing we needed was to figure out the offensive line, which is going to be an issue here. Though I want to get into that too. And then also middle linebacker is going to be there was one thing. Defensive line is still a problem. And I'm going to bring something up. We got to go into these things deeper, Jason. We cannot just be, hey, this happened, and hey, this happened, and hey, this happened. Because now there's actual news. Packer things happen, and we need to talk about them. This isn't us just making crap up like we've been doing for the last freaking 3 months.
None of it's made up. Okay, tell me your news. What's your news? Go ahead. Or dig into it. Let's have it. Well, tell me, dig into your stuff. Dig into Kenny Clark's contract.
Let's talk Kenny Clark. Let's talk about Kenny Clark. I'm going to say something that's going to be controversial, okay?
Ooh.
I'm not saying he is as bad as this player I'm going to bring up. I'm just going to bring up the situation, how similar it is, and how the Packers overpaid Kenny Clark, okay? Kenny Clark's a good player, but he's not the best defensive nose tackle in the league, so he shouldn't be the highest paid nose tackle in the league. He's also not the fourth best defensive lineman. He's the fourth highest paid defensive lineman per year average salary at this time. And that's just not the case. He doesn't make enough splash plays. I sent you and Browner and Eckes a video yesterday about Jair Alexander making plays around the line of scrimmage. There was 3 times as much plays of Jair Alexander over the last 2 years making plays at the line of scrimmage than Kenny Clark has made at the line of scrimmage in the last 4 years or 3 years, however long he's been with the team. 4 years, right? So that's something. But here's what I'm going to bring up. A few years ago, they had a certain player who wasn't any good. Okay? I don't want you to think that I compare this player's ability to Kenny Clark. It's the situation. After Kenny Clark, what do we have on the defensive line? A bunch of undrafted guys, a bunch of young guys who are unproven, and then a guy in Lowry who's 6'6", 296, who's okay. He's a good backup role player type player, but he's starting, right?
He gets crushed by tight end trap blocks. He gets crushed.
Right, crushed by tight ends on trap blocks. Right.
Yeah.
So what do? They're like, we got to lock down Kenny Clark because if we lose Kenny Clark, we got nothing. Right. Think about it and compare it to a couple years back, where a certain guy was a free agent or going to be a free agent, and the free agent at his position was not that great. And beside that player, they had one other guy, and they played 2 positions. They had one other guy who was at the end of his career almost, and still good. And behind that, nothing. And who is this guy I'm talking about? Nick Perry. Nick Perry, they signed him back because there was nothing on the free agency line. They gave him way too much money because they had nothing. And they're like, oh, we got to sign. Remember? They were like, everybody was saying, well, they got to sign back Nick Perry because they got nothing otherwise. And there's no good free agents. I'm not comparing Nick Perry's ability to Kenny Clark's ability. Understand this. I'm comparing the situation. They overpaid out of desperation because they have nothing else. And they know that if they don't sign back Kenny Clark, they have absolutely nobody on the defensive line who can make a play.
I have a different
theory. So they had to give him a bunch
of
money.
I got a different theory on that.
But now it's going to hold them back. It's going to hold them back for the next bunch of years because they gave so much money. Now, at least it's all paid up mostly in the first 2 years of his contract. So that's good. But it's still a lot of, like, he's making $25 million just this year as a signing bonus. So that's good news that most of it's coming off the cap this year. But after that, it's like, what are we going to do here? Like, what's with the defensive line? They have to address this. They should have drafted our guy, but they didn't have a Gallimore. They didn't, but whatever.
Welcome. Thank you. See you guys.
Too.
So
What's the top of the Packers?
We got a dark, it's a dark, scary figures.
Are they on
a lot of voices. Some wicked stuff.
No, by the way, Dr. Echo.
All right, here's what we got, you guys. Ben, here's my theory on that one, just to tell you. The reason the Packers signed Kenny Clark is because they miss on so many first-round picks. They're like, damn, we actually got a good one. We better sign him. I think that's my more likely the reasoning behind it.
Well, yeah, but it's still the same thing. The desperation of, hey, if we don't have this, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
It's very similar to the Nick Perry situation. I'm not saying that he's Nick Perry, whatever. Go ahead, Nick.
Wasn't Nick Perry's one good season his contract year?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it was a sort of good season.
It was okay.
He still broke his hand.
His best year.
Right, and it was the year he played all the games, but he still broke his hand during the season and could have sat out in other seasons if it wasn't a contract year. He probably would have sat. So yeah, you're right. bad timing for the Packers. They overspent a bit. Look, I think Kenny Clark's a really good player. The nice thing is he's still really young. He's only 24 years old. He's really young. So you figure you can get some really good years out of him yet. All those things are true. And you're right. If he goes, what do they have? If he goes, teams will run for 400 yards against him every game. So you got to have
Who is your listen? If I told you as your defense, the highest paid player on your defense is your nose tackle, how good do you think your defense is?
Well, I'm going to tell you something that's interesting. I don't know that it's very good. So here's my recollection of last season. I was thinking, okay, everybody's talking about how great the Packers defense was. Oh, the defense was really good this year and all that stuff. And I was like, were they really that good? Let me think. I remember watching the games. Not sure I had a few beers during a couple of games, so maybe I don't have all the details right. But I went back. So I was like, I didn't think they were that good for certain stretches for sure. About half of a lot of games that weren't very good. So I went back and I looked at the final scores. Well, they did hold teams down under 20 points pretty often, a lot of games last year. And that's one of the reasons the Packers won 13 games. So then I started thinking, well, maybe, ultimately, what is it? You stop them from scoring points. That's how you win. So I guess they were pretty good, but there's certainly a lot of room for improvement. And here's a question. Now, I got to give credit to this. Okay. Jason Wilde asked Kenny Clark a very poignant question this week. And he said to him, Kenny, with so much invested in this defense between signing Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, Adrian Amos, now giving you big money, picks, first round pick in Jair Alexander, high second round pick in Kevin King, Savage, a first round pick, Christian Kirksey, a big free agent signing. With all that's invested in this defense, shouldn't there be a lot expected from this defense? And shouldn't the defense almost be expected to lead and carry the way with so much money and so many picks and free agent signings invested in that side of the ball? And I hadn't really thought that much about it, but man, they have put a lot into this defense in the last couple of years, and it needs to be awesome. It needs to be top 10 or top 5 defense. It should be based on everything they put into it.
That would be great. We'll see what happens.
Don't give me that would be great. The Packers have stuck all their money and resources into the defense. It has to be. It's not just that'll be great. It has to be. They have to deliver. And we talked about the O-line, how all these undrafted free agents, no big draft capital, receivers, undrafted free agents, no big draft capital. Like, there's not a lot put into that offensive side of the ball. The defense is where all the money and the resources has been spread out to a bunch of players, and that unit has to be dominant. The next couple of years moving forward.
Are you locking in a prediction there at top 5 defense this year?
No, I'm worried about it. I'm saying they have to be. I don't know if they can be. That's right, man.
Dude,
I'm telling you,
if
man.
you want to talk about the whole defense as a whole,
I'm just saying, Wilde pointed out, look, Ben, Kenny Clark, big money.
I know.
Zadarius, Preston Smith, Amos, Kirksey, Alexander, King, Savage, right? On top of that, here are a bunch of recent investments that are either players that don't play or players that they moved on from. Josh Jackson, Josh Jones, Montravius Adams, Dayton Jones, Nick Perry, Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins, Kyler Fackrell, Kiri Thornton. I don't know if anybody remembers that pick, but he was a second round pick or third round pick. And Jarrell Worthy back in 2012. Oren Burks, Rashawn Gary, all high picks in recent years for this defense. It's got to be dominant, man. It's got to be one of the best units in the league because the Packers keep putting everything into it.
We'll see.
And people got to wake up to that. People can't be like, oh, Aaron Rodgers, you're not doing good enough. The offense isn't doing good enough. This defense should be carrying this team. That's what the Packers have invested in, the defense.
But they haven't invested in the defensive line, and they can't stop the run. So if you can't stop the run, it doesn't matter.
They better get some
defense
snacks pretty quick.
Their defense it's very weird. This is the thing that's so weird about this. it's almost as if they set up this defense as if it's still like 2017, 2016, and Mike McCarthy is the head coach. And they're doing a lot of passes to the wide receivers, and they want to score a bunch of points and all this other stuff. But LaFleur wants to do control offense, running game, tight ends, slow the game down, have control, ball control, all that kind of stuff. And if you play offense that way, your defense has to stop the run. And then maybe once in a while you give up a big play because you're stopping the run so well. But, who gives a crap because you stop them 90% of the time. But the Packers defense is designed at this point to suffocate the wide receivers, attack the quarterback. But they're susceptible to the running game, which doesn't get them off the field, which doesn't control the ball. It's the exact opposite. Like, it's designed for still trying to get turnovers through interceptions and sacks and sack fumbles and stuff like that. That's how the Packers have won for years and years and years, the last 20 years, really, right? They make plays on defense. They get turnovers. They cause the quarterback to do stupid stuff because they confuse them with moving guys around and all this other kind of crap with the 3-4, right? Because that's what 3-4 is designed for. We got 3 guys holding down the offensive line, and then we got 4 linebackers who could be coming at any time. We don't know, whatever, blah, 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 right? Except now, instead of having that type of defense at 3-4, they have 3 defensive linemen. One of them probably can hold up against something. They have 2 outside linebackers who pretty much just rush the quarterback all the time. And that's kind of the way it's been. Like, even like Clay Matthews would go back in coverage every now and again. I don't think Za'Darius ever goes in coverage. Preston Smith sometimes goes back in coverage. So there's really no secret that they're coming, right? So you can either run away from them if you're going to run the ball, or run right at them and let them go Olay past you and just shove them and let them keep going. And it's like the offenses of other teams have figured it out. They're like, okay, they want to make us turn the ball over and do stupid stuff. We're not going to do it. We know what they're going to do. Even if they disguise it, we know that this player can't cover. This player can't cover. This player doesn't attack the line of scrimmage. They knew that, Tremont doesn't like tackling, so let's run over there. Stuff like that. Like, they know that Martinez would tackle, but he wouldn't attack the line of scrimmage. He'd wait until stuff gets past the line of scrimmage, and then he has to make a tackle. Okay, we're not worried about him like attacking the play, so we'll just leave him all open. And maybe he'll tackle us, but it'll be a 6-yard freaking tackle. We'll double team the defensive lineman instead and get 5 yards on the play because we know he's not going to attack the line of scrimmage and bust through there and bust up the play. And these are things that have happened over the years. So their defense is designed for something that the offense is not going to do anymore. So it's really confusing, and they need to figure it out. Either LaFleur needs to go attack, score a bunch of points, and the defense needs to figure out how to stop the run. And I don't know how they're going to do it when everybody knows what's going on. Back to you.
Sorry, we had the technical difficulties.
One more
threw
thing.
me off for a little bit. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk. I just want to say, I don't know if Browner and the guys, the Statesman guys, are listening, but it sucks that it was just kind of wacky, and we couldn't hear what Browner was saying, or I don't think he could hear us either because he didn't have headphones on. So it was just like ambient noise everywhere.
A lot of background noise and all that stuff. But we'll get those.
Yeah,
guys
I thought it'd be cool to have those guys on, but
it would be.
Well, even though some of the guys that they're hanging out with, it would have been cool, to hear what they have to say too. But
right on.
It sucks that they can't. We just couldn't hear them.
I hear a lot of feedback on your stuff too, there, man.
Hopefully they got Ben. You're really crackly again. I don't know what happened. It's like before we went live, you sounded fine. We went live and you're crackly. I don't get.
Is your mic on your shirt? Maybe you can.
No, he's got a totally different headset tonight, just because it was crackly the last couple of weeks, and it's crackly again. I don't know.
So you think it's maybe it's my phone.
Rochester, Minnesota, or it's your phone? I blame Rochester, Minnesota. I blame Minnesota for a lot of stuff. All right, hey, here, Ben. Something that's interesting. What you said though is that
I spent $12 on this crappy headset for this, and it still sucks.
Yeah. It's not the headset. It's not the headset. Give it to your kid. Give it to your daughter who wants to do stuff, play games and whatever. Here's something I came across though. Now you're right. But I'm just saying, I thought that was a really interesting question by Wildy, and it really like stuck it in your face to make people think about how much Packers put in this defense. It's got to be better. It's got to be awesome. They're going to have to do it. One other thing about this is kind of a fun fact here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save it for a trivia question. I'm going to save it for a trivia question for you. It's good. It's comparing Jones, Williams, and Tyler Ervin and some of their combine stats and stuff like that. I'll get that to you later.
I'm gonna get 0 of those right.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. But anyway, Ben, what else did you have in terms of Packer news examination? Was there anything else that came up that you wanted to talk about?
Are we gonna do all that now? Because I got a bunch.
Oh God. Well, then stop. Because some people, I told them all about the trivia, so some people might be checking it out for trivia. So I do want to make one quick.
Why don't we sprinkle in a couple trivias and then we'll move to other stuff and then sprinkle in a couple trivias.
All right. I'm gonna give you some trivia right now on those guys, those running backs. Here you go. Ready?
Yep.
All right. So Tyler Ervin, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, right? Three the Packers current running backs. Of those three running backs, other than AJ Dillon, we know was a second round pick, who was next the highest draft selection when they were drafted?
Williams, right?
Yeah, Jamal Williams.
It is Tyler Ervin.
Crap.
Williams was the 134th pick. Ervin was drafted in the 4th round as well by the Houston Texans at the 119th overall pick in the 2016 draft. So the year before those two guys. Just so you know that. Now here's some kind of interesting stuff about this, right? I told you Ervin had a 4.41 40-yard dash, right? Aaron Jones had a 4.56 40 at the combine, which he runs away from everybody. I don't know how he ran a 4.56 at the combine, but that's what he did. And
wasn't anybody chasing him at the combine?
I guess. And Jamal Williams ran a 4.59 40 at the combine, and somehow he was drafted ahead of Joe. I don't get it. Their 10-yard splits, though, which is really interesting, is Ervin had a 1.56 10-yard split. Williams had a 1.60 10-yard split, but Jones had a 1.51 10-yard split. So in the full 40, Ervin was faster, but Jones got to full speed quicker because his 20-yard split was also better than Ervin's by a little bit. Williams is way behind those guys. Don't worry about it. But the bench reps, this is really crazy, okay? Aaron Jones did 26 bench reps.
Wow.
Right? Tyler Ervin did 17 and Jamal Williams only did 18.
Wow.
So Aaron Jones did 26 bench reps and Williams only did 18 bench reps. Again, I'm looking at the numbers here and I'm like, why was Williams drafted ahead of Aaron Jones? I don't get it. When you look at those test scores and stuff, and then the production on top of it, it didn't really make a lot of sense. But he was. Packers are just lucky that they also drafted Jones, I guess, is kind of the moral to that story. But those are some interesting numbers from kind of their combines, looking at those three running backs. So I'll throw that out there. Now, I have a quick thing here for you. Tim Boyle. Did anybody catch Tim Boyle's recent interview? Now, this is what the Packers are doing. If you haven't seen their website, it's like every player's getting interviewed now. They're just rotating them through, and these interviews are coming like 10 a day. So I can't even keep up with all of them. Ben, have you kept up with all of them?
Yep.
You have? Really? Okay.
I watched every one except I didn't see the Jamal Williams one, and I didn't see Aaron Taylor's. But
Aaron
I saw
Taylor?
just about every other.
Who's Aaron Taylor?
Yeah.
The former lineman?
Oh, not Aaron Taylor. Crap. Lane Taylor. There's too many freaking Taylors and Aarons. I just got it mixed up.
Anyway, so they were talking about how awesome Tim Boyle looks. The media's been talking about it. Boyle was talking about his comfort level and all this sort of stuff. And so I'm thinking, Nick, I got to make a prediction. I'm thinking Tim Boyle is going to be the clear number 2 this year behind Aaron Rodgers in front of the number 1 selection, Jordan Love. What do you think about that?
I think your prediction smells like number 2 because that is not going to be the case.
It's going to be the case.
He's going to know the offense better. He's a very good backup. And he's got the potential to be a starter. He's still relatively young. He throws the ball well. Like, I like Boyle a lot. And now I didn't go as far as I wanted to go with my prediction, which was Tim Boyle will eventually take place of Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love won't even work out. I didn't go that far, although I thought about it.
That might be better.
You like that one better?
It might be better prediction.
You think they're going to force Love into second place duty this year? Come on, man. You do? Okay. All right.
You don't take a first round pick and make him your third string practice squad quarterback.
I agree, but
The Packers do.
the Packers do.
They took Rashawn Gary and they played him 3 snaps in the NFC Championship game. So if they can do that, they can certainly take off first round quarterback and not play him all year long. They're not going to put him on the practice squad because somebody might steal him.
Rashawn Gary's not a quarterback.
I understand that, which makes it even easier that he should have seen all more playing time, and he didn't.
What do you guys think about that? Tim Boyle? Tim Boyle. I'm saying he's doing it, man. He's going to do it.
Well, somebody was saying something on one of Aaron Nagler's things. They were like, "Are we gonna do a Matt Hasselbeck with Tim Boyle? Trade him away for a first round pick?" And then they're like, "I don't think that's going to happen." But if he does look good, they could possibly trade him for, some kind of pick because he actually is good. You know what I'm saying? But he ain't no Matt Hasselbeck. Let's be honest there. Jeez.
Apparently, he's
The other thing that was weird is they talked about how good he was, and they kept. Yeah, that's what they said. They said his biggest thing, the reason why they signed him was because he could throw the ball like forever. Like he's got like a cannon of an arm, but his accuracy was his issue, and possibly because his ability to read defenses, all that kind of stuff, still needed to adjust and get better and all that kind of thing. But the other thing that's weird is everybody has been saying how good he is. And then I've heard people talk about the receivers making great catches where the ball is just thrown behind them and ball was just thrown over here, and it was Boyle threw the ball to him. And I'm like, well, if Boyle's throwing behind guys in space where there's nothing but running on air in these practices, like, is he really that good? I don't know. I think they're just looking for something to talk about at this point.
Maybe. Hey, Ben.
And maybe Nicko's right.
Did you hear this though? Their golden boy Jordan Love.
What?
Did you hear what happened? Geronimo 2.0, Malik Turner, who I told you last week was Geronimo 2.0 because he's only 1 inch shorter, a tiny bit faster, same weight, from the same university, same lack of production, same short yards per catch in college. He caught a ball down the sideline from Jordan Love on one of his best throws so far in camp. So if the Love Turner connection is happening, that guy's on the team, man. And I told you he's making the team. So put it down. Number 6 receiver, Malik Turner in Packers camp. That's what's happening because he's Love's boy. They got the Love connection. Love Turner connection right there. So get ready for it.
He can join him on the practice squad, sure. But that's about it.
Hey, all right. I got some trivia questions for you. Got to jump into it now. Made me wait long enough. That's enough news for now. Oh, what other news? Sorry. Last news point. Davante Adams had a big scare and twisted his knee up or ankle or whatever. And he was hobbling around. Everybody freaked out in practice. Davante Adams.
It's not badly. People get hurt.
Aaron Rodgers had his only perfect game of his career without Davante Adams in the game.
That's why they got Tyler Ervin in the slot. It'll be good. All right. Speaking of Davante Adams, I got a trivia question for you guys. I'm going to give you a little bit of information, and then I'm going to ask the question. Davante Adams, and you guys hopefully remember the one and only Bill Schrader, Wisconsin boy, was actually born in Eau Claire. I didn't realize that.
Whoa.
Then his parents moved over and he went to Sheboygan in school, and Sheboygan South, I think it was, high school and all that business. And then played, was a track guy at lacrosse, played football at lacrosse, UW lacrosse. Then actually he had a really crappy entry into the NFL. He got drafted late, then got injured, then got traded away to the Patriots. I think he got drafted late. That's right. He got drafted by the Packers late. didn't make the team, was on the practice squad, got moved to the Patriots. He's with the Patriots, then had an injury with them. They bought him out as on an injury settlement or whatever. And then he was out of the league, had to rehab, tried to come back, played in NFL Europe, and then finally made it back to the NFL in 1997, even though he was drafted in 1994. So the first 3 years were just wasted for the guy. But he had a pretty productive career and some really good years with the Packers. So Davante Adams and Bill Schrader both have one 1,000 plus receiving season. Which of those two? Now, Davante has been really close 2 other times to 1,000 yards. He had 997 twice in years right around his big season. Which of those receivers had the second highest receiving yardage season behind taking away each of their 1,000 plus yard receiving seasons? Does that question make sense?
The way you asked it leads me to believe that it's Schrader.
Yeah, Schrader must have had 990.
998 or 999 one time.
Because there's only 2 yards left.
He did. He had a 999 yard reception season
With the Lions?
with the Packers.
Really?
He had that, and he also had a 900 plus yard receiving season the year before he moved on from the Packers, 2001, where he had 9 touchdowns that year.
And then Brett Favre threw 6 interceptions, and he blamed it on Bill, and he blamed it on all these guys, and they cut them all, and they traded them all, and they didn't sign him back. Yes, I know.
And he had over 17 yards per catch that year as well.
Yeah.
Davante Adams
And he went to
is only around 12 yards per catch almost every year.
Are you saying that Bill Schrader is better than Davante Adams?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I did not expect.
Sounds like you're saying that.
If you looked at,
He's saying Favre's better than Rodgers.
They only each had one 1,000 yard reception year. He's not saying it.
I'm saying Jason's saying that because he's saying
I'm not
that.
saying. I'm not saying it. I'm saying Bill
tools are they
Schrader.
working with here?
I'm saying Bill Schrader was highly undervalued and underrated because it blew me away. He had 3 seasons over 900 yards. Davante Adams has 3 seasons over 900 yards.
I don't know if Adams is better than Schrader, but Schrader has more yards. What does that tell you, Jason?
I don't know. The different times, different eras.
Yeah, you pass more now.
Whatever.
It's easier to get yards now.
I guess maybe.
True.
I thought that was a really interesting one.
Bill Schrader is better than Davante Adams. That's what
Bill Schrader
I guess you're right.
999 yard season. Davante Adams was 997 twice, but not as much as Bill Schrader's. Just so you know. Some interesting stuff there. All right, I got another one for you. Ready?
Let's go.
We're gonna go back to the 90s. You guys like the 90s. We were just there. We're gonna stay there. So in 1994, there were, let me just look at this again. There were 1, 2, 3, 4. That was also this year Bill Schrader was drafted. So there were 5 players from that draft that made significant contributions to the Packers, that were on the team for a number of years and were starters or were on the team for at least 3-4 years. How many of those players were drafted before Dorsey Levens that year? I'm not asking you to name the players, but I wonder if you know how many were drafted higher than Dorsey that year. Who was drafted in 1994?
Who was the first pick that draft?
He's one of them.
Well,
Aaron Taylor was a first round guard.
I was actually going to say, I just brought
that
him up,
year.
but then I was like, maybe it wasn't that year.
At number 16, Aaron Taylor. And he was one of the players.
didn't they take another offensive lineman right after that?
No, they took a running back in the 3rd round. They didn't have a 2nd round pick.
A running back in the 3rd round?
LaShawn Johnson. He was not one of the guys.
Oh, yeah. He was supposed to be the speedster, but he was like dumber than a box of rocks.
He did nothing. But the next two guys were players that were on the team and did some stuff.
I would say Jeff Thomason. Or is he too? Maybe he's younger than that.
You guys
I know
don't
Terry Mickens. I'm pretty sure Terry Mickens was drafted with Dorsey in the 5th round that year because they're my 2 favorite Packers.
You are correct. Who was drafted first?
Ah, I knew that.
Who was drafted
And
first?
Terry was drafted before Dorsey.
He was.
Terry was.
He was 3 picks
know.
before. He was 146. Dorsey was 149.
Other than that one game, though, I don't know if Terry Mickens really had much of a significant career with the Packers.
Well, he played a lot of special
Hey,
teams.
you were there that
he was on
day.
the team for a while.
I know.
Yeah, you were.
He made Ben cry. I
I
mean,
remember
watched-
making Ben
you watched
cry
me cry
that
that
game.
day.
I don't, didn't like 99% of his touchdowns come that one game?
probably. You want me to look it up? Here, let's see. He had 4 receiving
don't know.
touchdowns in his career.
50% of his career touchdowns came in that one game.
50%.
The other guy is Gabe Wilkins, who
Matt Flynn.
was a 4th round pick.
Ooh.
Oh, Gabe Wilkins.
Aaron Taylor,
Ah.
Gabe Wilkins, Terry Mickens were all drafted ahead of Dorsey Levens, who was a 5th round selection. Dorsey was the only Pro Bowler out of that draft. Bill Schrader was a 6th round pick at 181. So
Wow. But think about that. Those are all guys that
that was
were
a good. That was a good
except for
draft.
Terry Mickens. Terry Mickens was just a role player, but a lot of those other guys, like I'll tell you right now, I'll still say this to the day I die. Gabe Wilkins' injury is what derailed the Packers in the Super Bowl against the Broncos. When he got hurt, that was the end of it. I mean, they had a hard time stopping the run game of the Broncos anyway. But after he went down and they put Fat Boy Darius Holland in there, and they had Fat Boy Darius Holland next to Gilbert Brown on the same side of the defensive line, there's no lateral movement there at all. And they
That's
just
not
went
Gilbert.
right off left tackle the whole freaking second half. Whole second half. Boom, 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 boom. Right at Darius Fat Boy. Boom, boom, boom. It was ridiculous.
All right, I got another question. Next
Plus,
one's
they
for
didn't have
Nick.
Doug Evans there.
This one's for Nick specifically.
Woo.
All right, Nick.
Yep.
There were in the 1995 Packer draft.
Yeah.
There were 3 Pro Bowlers from that draft, but
Whoa.
none of those Pro Bowlers were actually the best player from the 95 draft. Who was the Packers' best selection that year that was the most productive for them?
In 95,
1995.
there's 3 Pro Bowlers.
I'm
in
gonna
95.
I'm gonna give you the names. Here you go. Craig Newsom. Craig Newsom was the 1st round pick.
Yeah.
Darius Holland was the 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
William Henderson was a 3rd round pick. Brian
Henderson
Williams
sucks.
was the 3rd round pick, the linebacker out of
Wow.
USC.
Ryan Williams was good.
Antonio Freeman.
I was going to say
drafted.
Antonio.
Jeff Miller, we
Stonio
don't know who
Hans.
that guy is. Jay Barker, we don't know who he is. Travis Jervey, Eckes' favorite, was drafted that year from the Citadel.
He had a great preseason game once.
Charlie Simmons and Adam
Charlie
Timmerman
Simmons, yeah.
was the 7th
ET.
round pick,
Adam Timmerman.
drafted number 230 overall out of South Dakota State, the guard. So out of those guys, 3 of them are Pro Bowlers. But in my opinion, none of the best player was not one of the 3 Pro Bowlers.
How many of them are
Well,
Packer
Adam
Hall?
Timmerman was the best player.
How many are Packers Hall of Famers? I don't know. At least a couple of them. 3.
Stonio.
Stonio,
William
Henderson. I don't know if Jervey is or not, or
I
Timmerman.
don't think
They got
Jervey.
Timmerman there. They might have gotten Timmerman back
Derby's
for
not
that.
a Packer Hall of Famer.
What do you think, Nick? Who would you go with for the best player out of that draft?
Timmerman.
Yeah, I agree.
No, Brian Williams. Brian Williams is pretty good.
He was, but Timmerman
He
was.
didn't have a long career, but Brian Williams, he was pretty badass or bad butted for a while.
He was.
What if you can say the A word on your show here?
we're after 9 o'clock.
I already
It's fine.
said it.
I think Adam Timmerman was the best. I mean, you got to look at positions differently. Brian Williams was certainly more dynamic, but Timmerman was a really good guard for a long time, and with the Packers, and then he went to play for the Rams for a while too. So he was
And he won
very-
Super Bowls with
very
them,
good NFL player.
or at least one.
All right, Ben.
He was probably better than Aaron
Wait a
Taylor.
minute. So you tell me Brian Williams was in the Pro Bowl?
Ben, who are the 3 Pro Bowlers from that draft?
Oh, that's the question. Well,
That's your
Craig
question.
Newsom, I would guess maybe made it in. No, he couldn't have. William Henderson did because there's no fullbacks. and he shouldn't have. We all know that. If Adam Timmerman didn't, it's got to be Brian Williams and Craig Newsom. But I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think either of those guys
And
had
Stoney
a big enough season.
Just
Oh
remember.
yeah, Stonio. For sure, Stonio. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you one more clue.
So those two,
remember
the two
their
worst guys.
offense, defense, and what is all part of the Pro Bowl.
Oh, Travis Jeremy. That's right. He made the Pro Bowl. I forgot. He made it as a gunner, as a fart guy. But he'd
Now
run
you're
down
really
and
about-
smack
now you're
guys.
really getting
Yeah,
YouTube
I
out
caught
here.
myself.
That was a close one. We're gonna be Pat.
Hey.
We'll be
I
back.
didn't do it. I didn't say it.
Video.
That is remarkable. Out of those
Ooh,
guys,
that
like
was close.
Brian Williams was a good player. Craig Newsom was a solid player. Adam Timmerman was great. But the three Pro Bowlers were Henderson, Freeman, and Travis Jervey out of that draft. That is crazy.
And they're all worse than the other guys.
I think Timmerman was the best player out of the draft.
Stonehands.
He had some good numbers.
Timmerman was
He,
good.
he did. He had some production. All right, I'm going to bring you way back now.
Stonehands, yeah.
Nick, go ahead. Nick, go ahead.
Drop city for Antonio. If you're talking about hating drops, that one against the Eagles in the Super Bowl year. Whew.
That's one of the reasons I never liked him. I mean, I just don't like guys that have sketchy hands that you can't.
Then you have that one catch that's on every top 10 catch of all time catches too. So
Right.
he made up for it, I guess.
Yeah, but he didn't catch it with his hands. He
Well,
caught it with his belly. That's not the same. He always caught it with his body. Remember when he broke his arm and he became a better receiver? How does that even happen? A guy wears a cast on his arm for an entire season and he's better because he still caught with his body the whole time. I give Favre more credit for that than anything else.
woo.
He had a guy who had zero hands and he knew it. He just drilled it into his chest every single time he could because he knew he couldn't catch it.
That was
Two
smart.
positive fires tonight. Two
That's-
positives for fire from you guys.
That's because he knew we had that group of Eau Claire, the guys that might have been watching for a while. They're Favre lovers over there. We gotta give him a little something. Hey, Favre had his place.
Hey,
no
are you
doubt.
watching the chat? You got anybody in the chat today or what?
I don't know,
Nobody's watching.
my device is kind of. I think when I
Nobody's
had to
watching.
restart, I screwed some people up. Rick is here. Bernard is here. Mom and Dad are here for sure. And my chat's been kind of sketchy because my device was almost out of battery because the kids ran out of battery. So whatever. All right, here you go. Ready? I got a way back for you. I don't go way back, but we're going back to 85.
Ooh.
This is kind of give you some perspective on what the Packers have done with first round picks over the years. So in 1985, Ken Rutgers, offensive tackle out of USC, was the number 7 pick in the draft. He's a first round selection by the Packers. Good starter, good player for the Packers, right?
Okay.
Since 1985, how many other first round offensive linemen have the Packers drafted?
1 million.
Jeez. Tony Mandrich,
That's one. That's one.
Derek Sherrod,
That's 2.
John Michaels.
That's 3.
Aaron Taylor.
That's 4. We gave you that one before. Good memory, Nick.
Um,
Come on. How are you forgetting the most recent one? Finally got him off the team.
oh yeah, Balaga.
Yeah, thank you. And there's one more. There's one more in there.
There's one more. That's it.
That's 6 guys. That's it.
Did,
And that's not just tackles. That's guards or tackles.
What was Tauscher? I don't remember. Was he first round?
He was a seventh rounder.
7th round pick.
He's worth a first round pick. He was good.
He was good.
Very good. There's one more.
So it must be a guard because you're saying that it was could be a guard. So it must be.
Well,
a
no,
guard.
but like Taylor was a guard. I'm just saying Taylor was a guard. Michaels, Sherrod, Bulaga, Mandrich were all tackles.
since
And Rutgers was-
'85.
It's 85.
Sherrod.
He was supposed to be a bad boy.
Oh yeah, Ross Verba.
Yep. That's it. Those are the 6. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Whew.
Yeah, I know my offensive line. I was taught by Rick.
As a counterpoint, here's another perspective for you. In that same time period, Nicko, I want you to try to go for this one. Ben can help him out a little bit. How many defensive backs have the Packers selected in the first round? In the first round.
Whoa.
8,
It's close.
7, 9.
You're just gonna guess. All right, can you name some of them? We'll see if we can figure them out.
Well, what is it?
It's
7,
10.
8, or 9? Oh,
10.
it's 10. Okay.
10.
Not just corners, defensive backs.
Yeah.
That means
Defensive backs.
16 out of the 35 years they took an offensive lineman or a defensive back. Almost half the time.
Yep.
Greggy Newsome was the first round.
Yep.
Craig Newsom was the first round. Yep.
Okay, let's start. Hey, let's go backwards because I think it'd be easier. So Savage, Jair,
Yep.
Ha.
Yes. You're missing one. Marius.
Oh, Demarius. Oh,
Baseball
God,
player.
that
Baseball
guy.
player who was playing free safety with the Packers made him play corner. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And then he went to the Browns and played safety, made the Pro Bowl. Yep. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Then I don't think they had one for a few years there in the middle there.
There was one guy that's on my Sega football game from 2004. He's not very good on the game. He ended up not being very good, but he's in there. He was a first round pick too.
Well, I know there was Ahmad Carroll was the first round pick.
That's
But I
the
don't
one
know
I'm
what
talking
year
about.
that was.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
You're getting close.
And then after that, I mean, Craig Newsome,
Yep.
Terrell Buckley.
Yes.
Look.
I don't know. How many have we named so far?
There's
been a whole lot in the last 10 years.
There's another terrible safety in there. In the
Really?
90s, if you can remember him.
Darren Sharper was a second round pick.
He was a second round pick. He wasn't a terrible safety. This is a
So-
terrible safety.
Terrible person.
Terrible safety.
Yeah, he's not a good person, but he was pretty good at football.
Just like OJ.
I don't.
His nickname was Ice something for some reason. I guess because they dropped.
I don't.
George Teague.
I can't. Oh yeah, George T.
Teague.
That's yeah.
And then the other
He was so good they had to play the slow white Mike Pryor over him
the other one
because they couldn't count on him.
The other one went to Ohio State, and he was the earliest one. He was way back in the early 90s. Went to Ohio State. Nick, you remember him?
What's his first name?
Same as your son.
What's his first name?
Come on. Vinny
Del Negro played.
No.
played-
Vinny Clark. You guys don't remember
Oh, Vinny Clark. Yeah.
Clark?
He spelled it
I
out.
remember.
Vinny's Vinny.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about the spelling part. But that's it. Vinny,
He's very mad at you.
you guys got all of them with a little bit of help. Now, here's an interesting thing, right? Just to give you a picture about how much draft capital and how bad the Packers have been at figuring out those cornerbacks and safeties. They also, during that same time period, have 9 second-round selections that were defensive backs. So 10 first-round selections and 9 second-round selections during that same time frame.
How many Pro Bowlers?
The second rounders were much better. Butler, Sharper. I can look up more of them here in a second. But they had a lot better luck with the second rounders during that time than the first rounders.
King, second round.
Fred Vinson was a second rounder.
So you got Leroy. You had the same year. Well, you remember when they drafted those 3 guys? Newsom.
Fred Vinson.
Fred
I think
Vinson.
it was Leroy when he was drafted.
Right. Sharper was there, like we said. Fred Vinson. Mike McKenzie was a third rounder, actually.
He was good.
Yep, he was pretty
He
solid.
was the best out of the 3.
Right. Nick Collins, a second rounder.
Woo, really awesome.
He got hurt.
I'm trying to see if there are any more that I can think of here. I'm finding.
Kevin King, your favorite. Josh Jackson, your second favorite. Josh Jones, your third favorite.
Josh Jones, Quentin Rollins.
There's 3 second round defensive backs in a row almost.
Those are some bad misses on those guys.
Oh, what's his face? The same guy. Who's the guy drafted with DeBarius Randall was drafted? Who wasn't any good? Who played basketball instead of football?
Quentin Rollins. Yeah, I just mentioned him.
There you go. There's another guy.
Who was their second round pick this year?
AJ
I don't
Dillon,
remember.
running back.
Shut up. Don't be mean.
He's got good
That's
That's
quads.
what we've been talking about.
Great legs.
That's what I hear.
Everybody
That's what
has
everybody
legs.
talks
Great
about.
quads.
Okay, so
I
that
actually think
was
they look kind of weird looking because his waist is so tiny and his I've never seen anybody. It's so weird. When I see my profile, my gut is 3 times as wide as my legs, my quads are. And you see a guy whose gut is smaller than his quads are. It's just a weird look. I'm not used to seeing that.
all right.
Yep.
I have a follow up question following the defensive backs.
He's the weird one. You're good.
Nick, this one is for you. This
Okay.
one is for you.
Haha, Clinton Dix.
Hold on. It's related to him.
He's the answer to every question.
Now,
Of course it is.
after
Pro Bowl Clinton Dix.
okay, so we just mentioned them.
Yep.
But after the Packers failed miserably by drafting an Alabama safety in George Teague,
Yeah.
why in the hell did they try drafting another Alabama safety about 20 years later, thinking that would work out? Please answer the question.
Why? Why did they? Because Alabama does good all the time. So they
Why
think
were
that
those
people are
two
good
so-
from Alabama.
Why were those two so bad then? Tell me why. What?
George
Those-
Teague had one of the longest touchdowns in NFL history, didn't he? And Clinton Dix was a Pro Bowl player.
Plus, you got to remember George Teague. You got to have respect for him because when T.O. went and did the thing on the star, George Teague is the guy who ran down and smacked crap out of him. That's
Okay.
good. That's cool. I'll take that.
Yeah.
He was a cowboy at the time, but whatever. That was mad respect for George Teague. He was going to let somebody disrespect him on national TV.
That's
He
right.
didn't
Yeah.
go smack him. He already did it once, and he was like, "Yeah, doing it again. I'm taking you out."
If T.O. was standing up, he wouldn't have done that. Or looking at him, he wouldn't have done it. But because I guess he's kneeling on the ground, he
No.
can take a cheap shot. Yeah, okay, fine. Big guy, George Teague. All right. Anyway, the two terrible Alabama safeties. Terrible. Ben, what year was Don Mikowski drafted?
Whew.
By the Packers. He was drafted.
1987.
Correct. How many rounds were there in the draft that year?
12.
Yes. And Don Mikowski was drafted in which round?
The 12th round.
No, the 10th.
Dang it.
10th round.
That's
You
close.
were on a roll there. You were doing great.
Still better than Bart Starr.
Who is Bruce's favorite player that was also drafted that year in the second round at the 41st overall pick, who he owns his jersey?
Johnny Holland.
Correct. I gave you that one. That was a gimme. Nick, who was the terrible running back that was drafted that year, the number 4th overall pick in 1987, who ended up not being very good at all? But somehow he was a Pro Bowler one year, even though his stats that year were not very good.
He's drafted in 87.
Drafted in 87, made the Pro Bowl once. He only had 700 some rushing yards that year. Stats weren't really that great. Somehow he was a Pro Bowl running back, and he was the 4th overall selection. When the Packers had a 4th overall selection, they drafted this guy in 87. The very next year, they made a much better choice. But who is this guy? Who is this guy?
Is it Fullwood?
Yes. Very good. Very
Fumblewood?
nice. Yes. And Ben, you're correct. Sterling Sharp was the number 4 pick in the 88 draft, and he was awesome. Sucked that he got hurt, but who was the other Pro Bowler also drafted? Nick, this is for you. Who's the other Pro Bowler also drafted in 1988? Same year Sterling Sharp was drafted.
1988.
He was a safety.
Was that Leroy?
Leroy's a little later. Leroy's a little later than that. 92 or 90, 1990 draft.
Gee, I don't even know if I know that.
88 safety.
We wondered how many concussions he actually gave
Oh.
himself.
Chuck Cecil?
Yes.
He made a Pro Bowl?
He made a Pro Bowl somewhere in there.
That
Somewhere
might
in
be
there.
stranger than Clinton Dix making them. I mean, he was awesome doing the heavy hits, but I don't remember him doing enough of them to make a Pro Bowl.
All right, here I'm gonna give you this. Ready? Either of you can answer this one. I'm making some of these questions up just like along here. In the 1989 draft, here are some of the selections: Tony Mandrich, Matt Brock, Anthony Dilweg in the 3rd round, One of Eckes's favorites, Jeff Query in the 5th round, Vince Workman. Some other guys I don't even want to say. There was one Pro Bowler from the 1989 draft not mentioned. Can you name who that is? Or is that too hard?
They're all too hard.
All right, Chris Jackie was
Chris
Jackie
Jackie.
drafted in the 6th round in 1989 with all those other pieces of garbage, and he was the only Pro Bowler of that year.
Fair enough.
All right, Ben, in 1990, who were the first 2 first-round selections for the Packers? They were both selections by the Packers in the 1st round. They're actually back-to-back picks.
Tony Bennett.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, Tony Bennett.
Yep.
Not the singer and not the basketball player,
Right.
the football player. Geez, I don't know. Tony Bennett and
Come on, he was supposed to be fast, and they're like, "This is the answer."
Jackie Harris.
No, Daryl Thompson, running back from
Oh,
Minnesota.
Daryl Thompson. Oh, okay, yeah.
He could run fast straight, but if you made him change direction, it was all over with.
He'd get it now that he's a Minnesota guy.
Roy Butler was the best player drafted that year. He was drafted in the 2nd round after those guys.
He'd be in the Hall of Fame too.
Ben, you're correct, Nick. Ben, Jackie Harris was drafted in 1990, so nice work there.
Yeah.
So was Lester Archambault, if you remember that name.
Oh, Lester Archambault. He was a D tackle, right?
Yep.
I remember that guy.
Yep. Okay.
Matt Brock was a pretty good player too.
Matt Brock was okay. He was okay. But those Dillwig was the 3rd.
He was like a Dean Lowry. He was like Dean Lowry. Matt Brock was Dean Lowry,
right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Third is not good.
All right, I'm going to catch up with some times here, get a little more recent, but I see one more thing I wanted to ask here in 1992. Nick, there were, all right, there were 1, 2, 3, 4 starters from the 1992 draft for the Packers. How many of those starters were better than Terrell Buckley?
All of them.
Correct. You're correct. Here are the names. Robert Brooks was drafted in the 3rd round that year. Edgar Bennett was a 4th rounder, and Mark Chimura was a 6th rounder. He's better than Buckley. They're all better than Buckley, dude.
Edgar?
Yes.
What year was this?
1992.
1992.
Yep.
So Edgar, because he wasn't even a Packer after 1996, right? Wasn't he gone after that? Because Dorsey was the main guy in 97.
I think he had. I'd have to look.
So he only had his first.
Let me look.
He only had 4 years as a Packer, right?
He's there for
5.
both Super Bowls,
5 years. 5 years.
He had 5 years.
Yep.
I mean,
97. He was on injured reserve, and then he went to the Bears in 98.
Who's better, T-Buck or the guy that was drafted immediately after him that played the same position?
That was one of the.
It would be the Eagle. It would be the Eagle.
And Terrell Buckley was the number 5 overall pick that year, by the way, just so you know. Also, as a side note, one of my favorite college players of all time, Ty Detmer, was drafted that year in the 9th round.
What? I know who your favorite. Okay,
Packers.
I have a trivia question for you.
Okay.
Who is the all-time most talked about quarterback that you would talk about all the time, nonstop, over and 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 over? And I don't even know if he even got drafted or ever played in the NFL. But man, you talked about him all the time.
I think he played in the CFL, maybe. Major Harris.
I was going to guess Major
That's
Harris.
From West Virginia. I've never heard anybody talk about a quarterback more in my life than you talk about Major Harris from West Virginia. Over and over and over and over and over. And I don't think he ever even played down in the NFL or was drafted or anything.
Nope, I don't think so.
But Major Harris was kind of like a Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson. So
That's true.
If Major Harris would have been around 20 years later, he'd probably be a superstar.
He might have had a chance. Nick, who was the best player from the 1999 Packers draft? He was the last pick the Packers made.
The last pick?
Yep. They drafted Antoine Edwards, Fred Vincent, Mike McKenzie, Cledius Hunt, Aaron Brooks, Josh Bidwell, Damon Parker, Craig Heimberger. You remember him? D. Miller, Scott Curry,
Yep.
Chris Akins. We don't remember any of those guys, but there's one last pick, and he was the best.
Donald Driver?
Yep.
Yep.
You got it?
Double D.
Ben, was Chad Clifton a first or second round pick in the 2000 draft?
Well, considering that we didn't mention him as a first-round offensive lineman, he must have been second round.
I'm giving you some softballs now. Who was better, Chad Clifton or Mark Tauscher? Nick, who was better, Chad Clifton or Mark Tauscher?
I'd say Tauscher.
They're the same year.
They were drafted in the same year.
Tauscher was better.
Tauscher was a 7th rounder, Clifton, 2nd rounder.
Hey, I got a funny story about Clifton.
All right, what do you got?
Are you ready for this?
Yep.
We're breaking up a little story here. My birthday, when I was 36, I think. So that's 10 years ago now.
20.
Wow, it's been 10 years since Packers won. It's been 10 years since the Packers won the Super Bowl. It has been. Anyways, the year the Packers won the Super Bowl, on my birthday, my dad, who was awesome, and I went to a Packer game that year when they played the Bills. And that was the year they had just drafted Balaga, and Clifton was on his last legs. And it was at the end of the game. And I saw a 75, 76 looking type number at left tackle who just got blown up and destroyed. And then Rodgers got his butt sacked in like a second at the end of the game. It was near the end of the game, the 4th quarter. And the whole game I've been yelling about how Clifton sucks. And all these people were giving me dirty looks. I was like, Clifton, you suck. No, cut it out. And people were getting mad at me.
I've seen that.
And then this happened, and I just went nuts. I was just like, good God, that was pathetic, Clifton. Why are you even in the league anymore? And the guy in front of me turned around, and he's like, would you shut the F up? That was freaking Balaga, you freaking idiot. And I was like, whoa. And I looked, and it was Balaga. And then ever since then, I've hated Balaga. So that's where my hate for Balaga has started. I was incorrect. A guy called me out for it at a Packer game. And ever since then, I've hated Brian Balaga.
Wow.
That's my story. And then the very next night, and here's the best part of that. That night, we went and saw Kip Winger perform live at the Bingo Casino in Green Bay. And I didn't go up and sing with him because I was too scared. But then the next night, I went back again to watch Kip Winger with my sister and my mom. And I went up and I sang Miles Away with Kip Winger, which was the highlight of my musical profession, which is pretty sad, but it was pretty awesome. And I'll never forget because after the first night I met Kip, and I met him before, but I was way too animated, and I was freaking him out because, you know me, I can get kind of pretty excited about stuff. And he was kind of scared of me. So that second night he was like, hey, does anybody want to come up and sing with me? And nobody else raised their hand or said, I raised my hand. And he looked at me, and then he kept scanning the room looking for anybody else to come up because he was so scared of me that nobody else would. So then he had to choose me. So then I went up to sing with Kip. And before we started singing, we had to share the same mic. So he looked at me and he's like, hey, you got to get really in there to sing this mic. And he's like, I just have one request. During this song, when we sing together, we're going to be really close singing this mic. Just don't look me in the eye. That's going to be weird. And I was like, okay, I won't.
Nice.
And it was awesome. It was awesome.
I'm sure you did well. You probably
I looked at the crowd. I didn't look at him.
That's good.
I was so nervous. I don't even know I looked at anybody until I sang the first chorus. I sang the first chorus, and then Kip was like, holy, he looked at me and he was like, dang. And he looked at his wife in the audience, and she was like, dang. And everybody was like, dang. And all the people were going, wow. And I was like, yes. And then I was confident. And then I did look at him a couple times, but he was okay with it after that. Because he knew I was not just a regular guy. I was actually good, you know? I mean, come on. It's Kip Winger. He's like the greatest.
Wow. All right,
Okay, back to you. Back
All
to
right.
Packers stuff.
I'm in 2004 now. Ready? Nick. Who is so remember like a couple years ago, everybody's freaking out. The Packers drafted a punter in the 5th round, which was actually Brian Gutekunst's best selection, I think, that draft, although now he's kind of fading and we're not sure if he's the best one, but he's better than most of the picks Gutekunst made. Anyway, in 2004, the Packers drafted a punter in the 3rd round. Can you name this punter?
No.
Yes. I
Ken?
can.
What do you got?
Can I?
Sure, go for it.
Was it Craig Hendricks?
No. Craig Hendricks was
No?
awesome. This guy was terrible.
He beat him out, though. He beat this guy out, right?
Probably. Because this guy was awful. But he's a 3rd round selection.
Wow.
Jay something or other?
Yep. BJ Sander from
Sullivan.
Ohio State. BJ Sander from Ohio State.
That was the draft pick that got Mike Sherman fired.
That was a terrible draft. The best player in the draft again. So the Packers have done this multiple years. The best player in that draft again was their 7th round selection of Scott Wells. The other
Scotty
guys,
Wells.
That's not a great draft.
the other guys drafted that year: Ahmad Carroll, Joey Thomas, Donnell Washington, B.J. Sander, Corey Williams. And the sad part is they didn't have that many picks, but they had 3 third rounds or 3 third round selections in a first round. And they whiffed on all those. And Scotty Wells at pick 251 was the best.
They should have fired Thompson about the 2nd round of that draft. This is terrible.
Did
Get out of
Thompson
here.
draft that year?
I don't know. 04?
Was that the first
I'm
year
not sure.
Thompson drafted?
That might have been.
Well, there was
Sherman's
one
time.
time. Remember, it was because Mike Sherman was he ended up being the head coach and GM because
Yep.
Ron Wolf retired. I think it was 2002 or 2003.
Yeah, because wasn't
and
Rodgers
Mike McCarthy
his
was the
first
head-
pick? Rodgers was Thompson's first.
Rodgers was Ted Thompson's first pick, right?
Okay.
So that draft was Mike Sherman's last draft
Pick? Oof.
because Mike Sherman was still the head coach in 2005,
Right.
but Ted Thompson fired him immediately after that year, and then hired McCarthy in 2006. So yeah, that was actually Mike Sherman's draft, and the reason why they're like, okay, this is the worst draft ever. You're not GM anymore. We're gonna
That
get
is not
Ted
a good
Thompson
draft.
from Seattle over here. So yeah, hey, Scotty Wells is good, but
Scotty Wells is good.
1 out of whatever 7th. Your 7th rounder's any good. That's not a good draft.
Oh man. All right. Longtime kicker Mason Crosby. Nick, what round was Mason Crosby drafted in 2007? Other players in that draft were Desmond Bishop, Brandon Jackson, James Jones,
That's Bishop's good.
Alan Barbary,
Jones pretty good.
Corey
Oh,
Hall.
Alan Barbary, that guy was good.
Yeah, Corey Hall, who
Corey Hall was
caught Aaron Rodgers' first touchdown pass. And also Justin Harrell was drafted the first pick that year, but we don't talk about that. That's bad. But
I think if
Mason Crosby was drafted that year too.
your dad was the GM, it would have been 1st round.
He was a 6th rounder.
I was, I was going to say 6, so it's going to be my guess.
That's good. All right, I gotta bring you back just a little bit. Ready? Because I got some more specific ones here for you.
Sure.
All right, Nick, I'm coming to
Yes.
you on this one here.
I think for the record, I should say I don't think I've ever watched an NFL draft. just by the way, I don't think I've ever watched 1 second of it. But keep firing.
I watch
firing
him.
away.
I watch him all the time.
All right. I'm going to give Ben a quick one first.
All right.
Ben, in 2010, 2010, Mike Neal was drafted. Do you remember Mike Neal?
Yeah, he's okay. He's good. He's a good
He was
guy.
okay. What? So
He was
Packers,
he was Nick Perry without the big contract and the big 1st round pick.
all right. The Packers did not have a 4th round selection that year. What round was Mike Neal drafted in? Bulaga was 1st round. You know that. Morgan Burnett was 3rd round. James Starks was a 6th round pick.
I was going to
When was
say that
Mike Neal
Mike
drafted?
Neal was a 4th round. So I'm glad you told me that it wasn't that. So it must be
Yeah.
the 5th round.
2nd round pick that year.
Mike Neal was a 2nd round pick.
Yep.
He wasn't,
me
he wasn't
too.
worth a 2nd round pick.
But here's the players that draft. Bulaga, who is all right. Neal, who played at least some, was Morgan Burnett, who was okay. Andrew Corliss, Marshall Newhouse, James Starks, and CJ Wilson, who played for somewhat on the Packers for a while. So almost all those guys
Wilson played.
were decent. But yeah. All right, we're going back now. We got to go back to visit a topic that Nick should know very well.
All right.
Okay, Nick. In the 1990, wait, let me double check here. Oh, yeah, 98 draft. 1998 draft. Oh, Ben, this one's for you. Sorry, I'll get to you in a second, Nick.
Good.
Ben, 1998 draft. What round was Matt Hasselbeck selected by the Packers that year?
6th round.
Correct. Was he the best?
You don't ask me
player-
a Matt Hasselbeck question and think
Was he the best player selected by the Packers that year?
yes,
Okay.
by a
yes.
lot.
Hey, Bonnie
He was a
Holiday
6th
was
round
there.
pick.
Corey Bradford.
He was a 6th round pick. Corey Bradford was so terrible. He's another one of the guys that got cut after the Brett Favre 6 interceptions in a playoff game. Corey Bradford, Bill Schrader, and who's the other guy? There's one more guy that was part of
I
that
don't
trio of guys that got let go. That
Was it? I don't
That-
remember.
and then-
Brooks lasted.
and then
No, it
Double D
wasn't
went
Brooks.
from.
Yeah.
No, Brooks wasn't that one.
Brooks was gone.
Freeman
by
wasn't
then.
even there.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember.
Freeman
Okay,
got
Nick.
re-signed the next year. He was.
Nick, this one's for you. In 1996, because I'm going to wrap it up pretty soon. In 1996, what player that was one of your favorite players, and actually all three of us, one of our favorites, was drafted as the last Packers selection that year in 1996 from Ball State?
Keith McKenzie.
Correct. Now,
Yeah.
this leads us into another question, but I have a little information to lead up. Now, one Reginald White, who had 198 career regular season sacks.
Allegedly.
Just wait.
How many of those sacks were athletes?
Now, just hold on, hold on.
Is that what the question?
Hold on. Now, so he had here's something really interesting. So Reggie White had played 8 years in Philadelphia. The last year of his career was in Carolina. He played 6 years in Green Bay. And if you look at his stats during those years, he didn't have that many sacks most years. He really didn't. He had like 8, 12, 10, 11, stuff like that. So in his 8 seasons in Philadelphia, he had 124 of his 198 sacks. In his 6 years in Green Bay, he had only 68 and a half of those 198 sacks, and 5.5 his last year in Carolina. Now, in 1998, Keith McKenzie played a lot for the Packers. His first year of actually playing all 16 games. In 99, he played a lot for the Packers. And in 2000, he played quite a bit for Cleveland. Each one of those seasons, he had 8 sacks. He had 8 sacks in 98, 8 sacks in 99, 8 sacks in 2000. Of Reginald White in 1998, who was credited with 16 sacks, how many of Reginald's 16 sacks were taken away from Keith McKenzie's 8 sacks and given to one Reginald White as a Reggie White sack fund?
White sack fund. So Keith McKenzie didn't get to play as much as he should have. They always thought he was undersized, which didn't really make sense when they brought in other guys like KGB and stuff like that, who were, smaller, faster guys, and they got to play all the time. I don't know if they stole so many from Keith as much as he got a lot of halves when he should have been getting holes. Because Reggie had to get his sack fund totals. I'll say 6.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Keith McKenzie should
So
have had
Keith
14.
only got credited with 2 sacks. Oh,
He had
should have
8
14.
sacks.
Oh, okay.
He should have had 14. I'm telling you, Reggie White had 11, 10, 12, 8. And then all of a sudden, the last year of the Packers in 98, he had 16 because of the Reggie White sack fund. So as Keith McKenzie got the
I gotta
sack,
say-
Reggie White fell on the guy after and got a half sack.
Yep.
And then it was always a half sack for Keith McKenzie, half sack for Reggie White. And all of a sudden, those full sacks were split in half by Nick's count of 6. And I'm going to agree with him on that.
I love Reggie when he was with the Packers, and it was
I love
awesome and all that. And he was he talked about his sack totals. He had 3 in a Super Bowl. That was one of the best days I ever had. And but towards the end, he was getting a little bit of a bonus trying to get that all-time sack record, and he was getting a little bit of help from the statisticians that were batting out some half sacks for him.
There was just
That was one of the funniest things that Nick ever came. Nick is the guy who came up. He's the one who started the Reggie White half sack fund, and it was the funniest thing I at the time that I'd ever heard, because it was hilarious.
In
It was true.
Wisconsin,
It was true, and it can't be funny unless it's true.
in Wisconsin sports, back in the day for sure, it was every Bucks 3-pointer was $50 for the MAC fund. So every time there was a sack, there was another half sack for the Reggie sack fund. Whether he was on the field or not, when the quarterback went down, it was still counted as a half sack.
It wasn't that bad, but it happened to be. There were a lot of
You had to
late,
at least be on the
like,
field.
There was a lot of late fall-ons where he would pile on after, and all of a sudden it was like Reggie White half sack on that play, and we saw it so many times that year.
I think that one time he was helping the quarterback up afterwards. He got a sack.
Oh, dude.
All
Don't
right.
say this stuff. Mom's going to get really mad. Mom's like all-time favorite
love
Packers.
Reggie. Reggie
White.
is awesome. It was great.
Reggie and Yurko are Mom's favorite.
We love Reggie. We love Reggie.
Green Bay used to be the punishment city, and they would threaten to make you go there if you didn't run hard enough in practice. And then free agency started, and Sports Illustrated had every single team on there with Reggie. And then he said God told him to go to Green Bay, and then he did, and that was perfect. Because no free agent was ever considering going to Green Bay before Reggie White.
We love Reggie. We do.
Yep, that's why Mom loves him. Mom loves him because he was a big, very, very Christian guy, and can't beat that.
The thing that surprised me when I looked at his career sack totals was, okay, I mean, hey, it was a different game then. People ran a lot more. They didn't pass as much. Wasn't as many opportunities for sacks. The Packers were in a lot of games where, Holmgren was so conservative. They controlled the ball a lot. So you didn't probably have as many opportunities for sacks. It wasn't like now and all that stuff. But what really surprised me was I knew he had almost 200 sacks in his career. I thought he had more with the Packers. I just thought he had more,
Those stats count USFL?
No. But his years with the Eagles, he was a monster. Like it was insane. When you looked at, so you think about that in 8 years with the Eagles, 124 sacks.
He was the biggest free agent in the history of football when he came to Green Bay.
So it was fine,
there wasn't a lot of free agency before that, but
right,
he was still the biggest free agent.
there was none.
Well, come on, he wasn't the first one.
All right, I have one more.
That was the first year of free agency.
It was. I have one more question, kind of around that time.
Okay.
So Reggie White was a free agent who came to the Packers. A few years later, there was another free agent who came to the Packers that was also a defensive lineman. His name was Sean Jones. Now, Sean Jones was a Pro Bowler before he came to the Packers, and I think he made the Pro Bowl once with the Packers, if I'm not mistaken. In an interview when he was on the Packers, can you recall the number of times Sean Jones referenced that he was a Pro Bowler in response to a single question from a reporter about being a Pro Bowler?
Do you have the quote?
I do not have the quote. I have the memory of the quote, the recollection of watching him say it and wondering how many different ways he could say that he's a Pro Bowler in response to this one question. If you'd like to paraphrase and try to replicate the quote, go for it. But otherwise, you can either just say the number of times you think he referenced. Do you recall what he said?
Was he wearing long sleeves when he made the quote?
I don't remember.
I think it was 4. Was it 4 times?
I think that might be right. Can you identify the ways he referenced himself being a Pro Bowler?
Didn't he say something about how, I think he said Pro Bowler, All Pro, something about going to Hawaii.
Yep, he said I've been to Honolulu.
Honolulu.
Those are the 4.
Every way you can think of how you say it, he said it. Yeah.
And after that, he then became Sean Honolulu Jones. That was his new nickname. You don't remember that? It really happened. We witnessed it.
Better than the long
There's a couple things that will always stick in my mind. The Sean Jones Pro Bowl interview, Antonio Freeman saying big play makes big plays, big play makes big plays. That was always something Antonio has always just burned in my mind of interviews that were just will never leave me.
Oh, okay. Well, I had to get that one in there. I don't know I think I have one more for you.
Are we going to talk about actual stuff now or what? Because
dude, we're an hour and a half in. We'll have to do a different show for that. This was
we're an hour and a half in.
Yeah.
I got a 45-second piece of news.
Give it to us.
Let's do it.
Ben, you see your boy Pat McAfee has been up to recently?
He got married.
Not talking about that. Pat McAfee has been getting into the pro wrestling business.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah, I know. They had
the Hafeman
the
brothers
stunt
senior
of the,
wrestling correspondent. I have to point out that he's gotten a feud with a guy named Adam Cole, and Adam Cole is part of a faction where he has a couple of guys that have his back. He's not a solo guy. He's got a couple of guys that got his back. So Pat McAfee showed up to the wrestling show this week, and he brought his backup with him for the tough guy to fight the other guys. And who did he bring?
The Hawk, right?
Former Super Bowl champion AJ Hawk was his muscle. So they got their pay-per-view this weekend, and AJ Hawk will likely be involved in physicality at the pay-per-view, and they announce him every time as former Super Bowl champion AJ Hawk.
Impressive.
Is that what they call him?
They showed up in a limo and all that. Pat McAfee is actually the bad guy in this story. They kind of have him as the jerk, even though the guy that he's fighting wrestling with was a bad guy before this, and now McAfee's going to be the jerk.
I saw the interview he did when he was on the Pat McAfee show, and it seemed way too staged to me. So now that you say that, I'm glad. Yeah, I know. But I mean, it was like, because he just went off the freaking rails and started yelling and screaming, and McAfee's not the best actor, so this guy was much better than McAfee. And McAfee was like, "What just happened there? Like, was I the bad? Like, what did I say? Like, it was just kind of like, okay, McAfee, you're not the best actor in the world, dude.
Yeah,
this guy's much better than you.
It's tough to make the punter look like a tough guy. But they're saying that if he gets him in the right spot, he can kick his head to the moon. So that's his big move, is that he can kick really hard.
Well, he can.
And then with the other guys,
wrestler, I'd be worried about my nuts.
That's still illegal. You can kick a guy in the head, but you can't kick him in the nuts.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've seen guys do it in wrestling, so it ain't nothing. It ain't that illegal.
On this
show, the ref is not looking, you can still do it. Or
on this
show,
show, on this show, we say coconutties.
And the coconutties.
Whatever.
But so AJ Hawk is stepping in the wrestling business, just like former Packer greats Kevin Green and the aforementioned Reggie White.
Oh, that's right, Reggie did. That was funny.
So that's Packers wrestling talk for this week.
All right, before we go, Ben, can't get to all that stuff. It's already an hour and a half.
We gotta just talk one more thing.
All right,
it's very important. Offensive line.
Okay, O-line. What do you got?
Lane Taylor. Lane Taylor has been they've been shuffling him in at right guard. And at first when they said, I thought they were just putting him in at right guard and just having Billy Turner at right tackle. But they've also had Rick Wagner at right tackle with Lane Taylor at right guard, which is very promising. I'm hoping that's what happens. And apparently there's some kind of new thing that went down earlier in the week where these reporters can't talk about any of that stuff anymore. Because the first 2 days they were talking about it, and then the Packers put the end to that. They're like, stop talking about this stuff. Let everybody know what's going on. So it's very cool. I'm hoping Lane Taylor gets the starting job at right guard, and then maybe Billy Turner is better tackle than Rick Wagner. I don't know, but I just hope the best guy plays. But it's encouraging to me. The other thing Lane Taylor said is his whole life, before he got the starting job at left guard for the Packers to take over for Josh Sitton, he always played right guard and right tackle through high school and college. So that's good to know. So it's his natural position. He played for years and years and years. So that could be helpful. Maybe he's actually better at right guard than he was at left guard. And this year he's not injured anymore like he was last year. So it could be a very, very positive move. And hopefully they play the best player. Not the guy who's made the most. Play the guy who's the best player. That's all I'm hoping for out of this. The other thing I thought that was very interesting, a lot has been said about Robert Tonyan at this point as the number one tight end. Robert Tonyan as the number one tight end. He's getting the most reps with the number one team. That's very interesting to me. Now, I don't know if that's because Jay Sternberger was on the COVID-19 list, couldn't play. beats me. But a lot of it has been said about Tanyan coming back in even better shape. He looks bigger, just as fast, but now he's got like a little bit bulked up. And that's pretty cool to see an undrafted guy who could possibly be the starting tight end over 2 third-round picks the last 2 years here. So this is encouraging to me if this happens, where they play the best player and not just the highest paid or the highest picked player. That would be nice to see.
The other thing that was brought up in by the media was that Rodgers in 11-on-11 drills, Rodgers has thrown to Tanya, and each time they've done 11-on-11 the first 3 times that he's hit him on passes up the seam. So I like that too. I think it makes me go back to what you said. Tanya's definitely going to make the team. I didn't know they were going to work him in that way. Lewis is not going to necessarily be a starter. He's going to be more in, spot duty. Bob Tanya is probably the most complete tight end of the group when you look at everything he can do. And he trained with George Kittle in the offseason again. And they were quarantined together. So they hung out, they played video games. He said, they competed at a bunch of stuff and like everything. So, if some of that Kittle rubs off on him a little bit more, or even if it's confidence or whatever, hey, awesome. Cause I think he's got the tools. And even though he was undrafted, he's got great hands. He's big enough. He's fast. He's pretty decent blocker. I mean, I don't know. I like him. I've liked him ever since they had him. So hopefully he sees the field a bunch. I would love that.
They also been saying MVS has been playing really good the last all week, pretty much. He's not one of the guys who's dropping balls all the time. It's been other guys. He's been making the plays. So that's pretty cool. Rodgers has thrown like 5 interceptions already in these games or in these practices, which is kind of scary. At least he had in the first 3 practices. He threw 5 picks. He threw 3 picks in one day.
That's okay.
Adrian Amos has been getting picks like all over the place. Christian Kirksey got the first interception off Rodgers in the first practice or second practice.
They have said Kirksey's been really impressive. So they're really banking on him.
In pass protection or in defending the pass, yes, he has been, they said. But it's not going to help. I'm worried about the run. Because Kirksey's even lighter than Martinez is. So he's quicker and faster, and he's a better coverage guy. But is he going to be able to, he's going to have to attack a lot. He's going to play very different. He's going to have to attack a line of scrimmage on running plays. He's going to have to read and understand what's going on as soon as his ball snapped. And if he doesn't, because to be honest, his pass protection skill or his pass coverage skills aren't going to do anything if they're running the ball all over the place, right? It just feeds into what I said at the beginning of the show. You know what I mean? It's just another guy who's great at pass coverage, and not helps against the run. I don't know. So it's a little scary on defense, but yeah, that's apparently the Joe Jackson looks great too. Apparently they're saying he's like covering Devontae Adams and shutting him down, and it's like, what the hey is going on? Like I don't know what's going on.
Well, that pick's got to be.
And who's the guy
second rounder?
Yeah, and who's the guy they drafted really late? The safety. They were saying he's been making plays.
Vernon Scott.
I'm wondering if he gets to. I wonder if he gets to play before Savage. I don't think it will happen. Savage first round pick, but
yeah,
because they said Savage isn't really making any splash plays or do it. You know what I mean? But Scott's been making plays, and Adrian Amos has been making plays.
Goody's too proud, man. Goody's too proud to let that happen. The other thing that worries me is this whole Tanyan talk is like the Danny Vitale talk of last year. That's what it worries me about.
Don't say it.
I'd hate to see it because I really think he could do awesome if he gets the chance to play. Nick.
What?
Who are your MIPs for the Packers offensively and defensively? Who is the MIP on each one of those units, according to you?
Is that most improved or most important?
Important player.
Most important player? I would say Aaron Rodgers. I guess I would say. I guess I would say Kenny Clark, I guess.
Okay.
Because I would say Aaron Rodgers by 10 miles over everybody else. And that Kenny Clark can step up his game and be a force that he's getting paid like, then they should be in good shape.
Yeah, you should call us the MPPs, most paid player. Because Kenny Clark is the highest paid player in the defense. and he's not the most important player.
Well, if he plays good, it'd be nice.
I think the most
Yeah,
I think
but-
the most important for each unit, and it's not because they're going to be the biggest, always the biggest part of it, but the ones that are going to make the one that's going to make the offense work, the most impact to make the offense the way they want to play it work is MVS, and the one that's the most important for the defense is Kirksey. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And that's scary.
I like Kirksey.
In both
Seems like
ways.
a cool dude.
I like Kirksey too, but then if he's the most important player, then why are they paying Kenny Clark all this money?
I mean, Kenny Clark's got to do what he does, and Aaron Rodgers has to do what he does, and you expect him to. But those guys have to be key contributors and do what the team needs them, or there's going to be major deficiencies. The Packers, if MVS isn't solid, it can't catch the ball, isn't reliable, they have no deep threat. And so then the defense can collapse against the run, can collapse against the short pass game, all that sort of stuff. And then on the defense, if Kirksey doesn't clean up all the tackles, I mean, I don't know. Kenny Clark can be doing his thing, but he's going to get double teamed, and then what? You know, I don't trust Burks to make tackles, even though he worked out well and had a great offseason apparently, and all this stuff. And whoever else they're going to plug in there, Kirksey's got to be the man. Like, he's got to attack the run, he's got to dissect, attack, tackle, and he's got to be awesome in pass coverage. That's it. So that's what I think. Okay.
One trivia.
One last question. I think I had a prize too. Is a Packers
me.
pin, an official Packer pin that Bill Schrader handed to me when I met him in 2015 at during the 10th annual Packers tailgate tour.
Give it to Browner.
Give it to Browner? Because they tried. I'll give it to Browner. You guys both did well, though. You did better than I expected. And I asked questions that I didn't expect as well. Now,
I had zero studying.
last question, and you both can answer this.
Uh-oh.
Whose haircut is better, Chris Sims or mine?
I've never
It's the
seen
same
Chris
haircut.
Sims, but I'm probably gonna go with Chris Sims.
It's the same haircut.
Exactly. It's the same haircut. How much do you think he pays for that haircut? I pay nothing, and a 9-year-old did this.
How do you know
Whose
Chris
haircut's
Sims
better,
can get a
my
haircut for free too?
I'm pretty sure he didn't. He does. I think he lives alone, and I think doesn't he? He lives alone. doesn't he?
He's married and he's got kids.
Oh,
What are you
does he?
talking about?
All right.
Yeah.
And he kind of like
Why is my voice sound so
slicks it
weird?
all down and all this stuff. But I'm saying I had a 9-year-old, and maybe her style was unorthodox, but it's the same result as his haircut, basically. Real tight on the sides, left a little on top, and there you go.
Oh, wait, I gotta do something real quick.
All right, do it.
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was weird.
Thanks for hanging with us. Packer Trivia. We'll talk linebackers in the future. We'll talk whatever else. D-backs. I think we got to get to them yet, and quarterbacks. And we got Nicko. Nicko, before we go, what the heck's going on with the Bucks, man?
They won
Yeah.
yesterday.
What's
You
wrong?
won.
I know they won, but they're not looking. Chris Middleton's a mess. Pat Connaughton was a monster. They needed Pat Connaughton to be a monster. Giannis was a dominant monster again. 20 rebounds, dunking on people's face. But
Bucks are not going to lose again until the conference championship.
from your mouth to God's ears, I hope, or
That's
whoever.
seven straight wins coming up. Get ready.
I hope so. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good weekend. Peace out.